Everybody, welcome to 2022. 2021 was another crazy year for everyone. I feel really blessed that for me the last 2 years have been some bucket list years. And summer of 2022, I finally, after many years, got a full-time teaching position. What I've been working towards since my early 20s. I'm turned 40 this year, so that's been a long time coming. It allowed me to move my partner Tori with me to Alabama, and I'm financially stable for the first time in my life. I'm able to, well, we haven't bought a house yet, but I'm able to rent a house and have some room. We got the dogs now. We had her dogs come with us in 2021. We got our new baby dog, Butchery, who you've probably seen. That's Cammy back there, who came with us. But I feel like I have a home and a family and some stability for the first time. It's allowed me to start buying books again. That's been awesome. 2021 artistically has been really satisfying. Like starting this YouTube channel has been really cool, and feeling like we're building momentum that you all are giving us is really awesome. Me and Sean are super grateful for that. Having an outlet to talk about the things that interest us has been really gratifying this year. Outside of comics, I placed third in the portrait category of a very renowned competition. The Art Renewal Center 15th Salon is a realist art organization that I've been following since I was in community college. The same time I set out to try and get a job, I started following them from their first contest and always wanted to just be part of that. Like, I always respected those artists so much. I just thought it would be cool to be in the show, just included. So to actually have placed high in my category was really gratifying. I got to go to Sotheby's and see my painting hang in Sotheby's, and then the painting is just getting shipped back from Spain, where it was showing at a museum in Spain. So that was really cool. Not something that we talk about on the channel because we're focused more on comics, but a bucket list thing. So I know it's been a tough year, but I'm really grateful, and I'm blessed that this has been good 2 years for me, actually, financially. And I hope it is for most other people as well, that you've figured out how to ride the pandemic, and that we continue to figure out how to not benefit from the pandemic, but benefit from the conditions that it has forced upon us in these last couple of years. I think there's opportunities that we can all take advantage of. So hopefully everyone's adjusting and figuring out how to ride it well. And then the final bucket list thing is I, starting at the age of 7, I told my parents I was going to be a comic book artist when I grew up. And at the age of 21, that changed. I wanted to be a professor. Comics, even though I've always continued reading them, seeing them as a job no longer interested me, because the things I wanted to do in comics didn't seem like things that I'd be able to have a stable life with. And that's something else I've always valued, is I've wanted a stable life. I don't want to I don't want the life of an artist, and I don't want to have the financial life of an artist, a freelance artist. And I wanted to have a family and things like that, and I didn't want to subject them to the worries. And I did, but also I'm selfish with my art, and I didn't want to have to change my art to do something that could make money and be saleable. So I went back to school to be a professor, and it was my goal to make comics in the summer and in my free time. And it's really nice that has worked out that way, that I've been able to be part of a project that I wanted to read myself, that I came to as a fan. There's Boocha. There's our baby puppy. She wants dinner, probably. Hi, Booch. So I'm going to do a top 15 list of books that came out this year that I'm grateful for, that have impacted my life. And I can't put the Strange Death of Alex Raymond on there in the top 15 because I was part of it. But really, honestly, taking myself out of it, I was a fan of Dave Sims' work, and Dave Sims' work on Glamour Puss and the Alex Raymond material in there specifically, before I ever got involved with this project. And if this book had come out without my involvement, I would this would be my number one book of the year. I would have been so excited that it finally came out. So it's totally cool bucket list thing that my return back to the world of comics came working with one of my heroes on a project that I've been waiting for so long. Is an honor that I can't even describe. I mean, it's just a crazy thing I come back to being, really my first published work as an artist is with someone that I've held as the top tier of comic artists is pretty unbelievable. So this book was supposed to come out in July. Pretty well documented on our channel by now that it didn't come out until the end of November. But I cannot be more grateful that this book got released in this last year. And I cannot be more grateful that I got to be part of it, that I got to produce art for it, some of the art for it. And I cannot be more grateful to Dave that when he stepped away and was willing to shelve the whole project, that he gave Sean and I the go-ahead to bring it to the world and make sure that everyone else could see it. So for that reason, this is obviously the book that has impacted my life the most in 2021. And it's been part of my life actively as a contributor to it for the last 6 years. So it's very gratifying to be done with it and get it out there. But I'm not going to put it in my top 15. So an honorable mention or something. And another book I wanted to mention that's not properly a book that was from 2021, but a book that really impacted me this year was In Waves by A.J. Dungo. I hadn't heard of the publisher No Brow Press until this year, and because I've only been buying comics digitally over the last however many years, this just wasn't something that I was aware of, was this publisher. They do such good quality prints, and out of all the books that I bought from them this year, this one really touched me. It's a really amazing, touching, emotional book that if it doesn't make you tear up a bit, you're crazy. So I wanted to mention this as one of my top favorite reads of 2021, but it's not properly a book from 2021. I don't have a numbering system. I'm not really good at that, but I do have some general loose categories, I guess, that help me organize my top books for the year. I'm really bad at numbering things because I like them for different reasons. So there's no number one here. There's a few projects that I'll mention just that I'm happy that they're coming out, basically. Things I've wanted, or things I'm grateful have being collected. So the first one of those is a collection of Matt Fraction's Hawkeye. I know there was a hardcover omnibus of it that I've been wanting. I was hoping the hardcover would come out with the release of the TV show, that they'd reissue it. They didn't. They reissued it in a paperback format. Hopefully it's selling really well, and I'll be able to grab the hardcover eventually. But as a placeholder book, I'm really happy to finally have this. This is a run on the book that I really appreciated, and I'm really happy to have a copy on my shelf. Hopefully hardcover soon. Another thing I'm really grateful for is IDW's ongoing effort to reprint the Obscure Cities by Scoyton, I think, and Peters. I have a lot of the old NBM ones, and I'll be keeping my versions of those, the original ones. I won't be upgrading those because they're great print. But there's some of them like Shadow of a Man, Theory of a Grain of Sand, The Leaning Girl. There's ones that I didn't have. I don't know if they never got published by NBM, or I just missed them in the years that I was, not buying as many comics, especially, things that were in print. So really grateful that they're getting the rest of these books out there. This has always been one of my favorite European series, and definitely going to be having Sean reading these and exposing these to Sean soon. So really grateful for that project. I look forward to them printing any of the other ones I haven't had. Another ongoing project that I'm really grateful for that's had releases in 2021 is Magnetic Press's The Collected Toppi. Like I said in our video of Sergio Toppi, I've been an obsessive fan of his work since 2001, when I went to Comic-Con with a couple of my classmates from the Kubert School. I dropped out in the December and at Christmas break 2000, but I went in 2001 with a couple of my classmates and one of my instructors, Sergio Carrillo, and he came to our hotel room with an Italian, the original Italian, I think, or maybe a Spanish version, and that art stuck in my head, and it's just been so hard to find anything until recently. So grateful that Magnetic is putting out a complete collection. I would have been holding up Shiraz Day, but that was printed a long time ago by Archaea, but I finally got a copy for myself this year. I found it at Second and Charles. But now I'm finding out, I almost wish I hadn't bought that, because come to find out, Magnetic's going to be reprinting that. I didn't think they had the rights to that one, so I grabbed that copy. But really happy to have that, and really grateful for that ongoing project. Something else I got introduced to this year, I've been told about this book for a while, but I finally started reading it. Just have students tell me about it, and then I'd always watch Omar on Near Mint Condition talk about it, is Berserk. And so I'm really grateful for this nice big hardcover project that Dark Horse is doing. I hope they do more of these with like Lone Wolf and Cub. I hope that Viz starts doing these with things like Vagabond. These are just a real delight to have manga collected in nice big hardcovers, especially when you have detailed artists like this seeing it bigger. Berserk started just doing it reviews for the channel because we knew it was popular, but I was a little skeptical about it. I was gonna read a volume, do a video on them, and then wait, to read the next one until we were gonna do a video again. But after we finished Volume 2, I went to read and start making notes on Volume 3, and I got sucked into the story like really big time during Volume 3, and have blown through all 9 that have come out. So that's something that has released some books this year. But for me, like, I hadn't looked at any of Berserk till 2021. So just the whole series, not just Volume 9 in particular. The whole series has been definitely something that's been a big part of my 2021, something I'm become obsessed with, like everyone else is. Dave McKean's Raptor, as well as the 4 books that I grabbed. I don't know when they were published. The 4 books that with David Almond. We reviewed Slog's Dad as a review, Sean and I together. So anytime there's new Dave McKean work, I think it should be sung from the mountaintops. He's one of my absolute top favorite comic artists. And like I said in my review of this book, he just continues to get better, which is absurd given that he came out as one of the best ever, that he continues to get better. So just any Dave McKean book's always going to be on the top of my list. This series, I don't know if the first one came out. I grabbed it at the beginning of the year, and Volume 2 just came out from first second. The Golden Age by Roxanne Morelli. Moro? I don't know. I'm crap at pronouncing names. I'm sorry, guys. And Ciro Pedrosa. Love the art in this book. The story, I'm really looking forward to talking to Sean about it. There's some things in there that I think are a bit goofy, but man, this is some of the coolest art I've seen, and really phenomenal production. Usually first second they make kids books, and I'm not so big on their production, but when they do a big hardcover book that's like, they really believe in it, like this book, obviously they do, they really go all in. And so this is definitely one of my favorite pieces of just visual art, and it's something that I'm really looking forward to talking to Sean about, so we'll get to that. Another just visually stunning book. Just yesterday I would have done a review on this, but by Andy Barron. Really, really phenomenal visual book, beautiful book, and I think as like a first entry from a creator, it's one of those things that's got me, where's this guy gonna go from here? So really cool. By the Mansion Press. I ordered it from Huber Editions and had it sent from France. Hopefully it's pretty easily available in the US. The most curious project of the year, formally curious, interesting project of the year to me, was Sprats For Gillian by M.R. Canning. I saw it on Menachem's Escape Pod Comics feed, his Instagram feed. I'm always looking to see what he has in his store because he gets the cool stuff like this. And I saw it and I said, Menachem, I don't know what that is, that little thing on the clipboard, but you got to send me a copy. And I was really happy for it. It's really short. The story's kind of cute and sweet. I did a review on it. But in terms of what comics can be, how they can be formatted, this kind of stuff is so cool. So I'm very grateful for that project this year. Then now we're moving into books that really this last set of books are books that really impacted me intellectually. They impacted me emotionally. They've made me rethink what I'm doing with my own work, that kind of stuff. So there's no way to say I know what my top book is, but it's hard. It's hard. You know, there to me these are all on equal ground, really. Um, Rain Like Hammers by our buddy Brandon Graham. Uh, I've been a fan of Brandon's artwork for a long time. His stories have always baffled me a little bit, or they've just been like fun adventure stories. They've never, you know, it's always his artwork that's done it for me until Rain Like Hammers. With Rain Like Hammers, it was like it's a philosophically compelling story, and it's talking about what to me is the most interesting question of the last few years, which is the question of personal identity. It's something I think about a lot. I struggle with a lot, like where to land on that philosophically. Yeah, I have a number of assignments for my students, asking them to struggle with it, probably because we often use our students as like experiments for ourselves. I want to see what they're thinking to try and help inform my own opinions. It's something I've seen in the zeitgeist a lot, like even on Vision, them talking about the ship of Theseus. I got a book, The Ship of Theseus, I'll be talking about. One of my favorite bands had a song called The Ship of Theseus. It's just identity is right at the center of everything. And so Brandon tapped into the zeitgeist. And he looks at identity from a lot of different ways. Some of them serious, some of them are emotionally touching, some of them are just like kind of funny one-liners. And I found that combination of thoughtfulness with his, we all know his amazing art, really made this book stick. And it's something I keep coming back and thinking about. And luckily he's, you know, he's now, I consider Brandon a friend. We spend a lot of time with him on this channel, and I was so happy that we got to interview him about that book and hear his thoughts on it too. Bastien Vives's The Butchery. Anything by Bastien Vives, I'm immediately grabbing. His work is always like so emotional, and his art is so beautifully minimalist. And in The Butchery, the minimalism of the art comes together with the minimalism of the story, and it should be like a easy, like flip through, throw it away in 10 minutes type of book, because it reads that quick. But man, he knows how to punch you in the gut, and that he can punch you in the gut in that compressed of a format it's just really impressive. So there's been a couple books by Bastien Vives this year, but this is the one that it almost hurts to read it. It's so good. And I can't wait. I don't know all of what he's done exactly that hasn't been translated, but I hope it all gets translated. This year for me with the channel has been a real education in manga. There are some manga artists that I really like already. One of them going back to I don't know when I first got introduced to Goodnight Pun Pun, 2016, that I would have first started reading Goodnight Pun Pun. A friend introduced me to that. But Ennio Asano's work, and so just any work that he does is going to be on my list. So what's coming out this year is the Dead Demons, Destruction. Anything he does is phenomenal. It's always going to be on my list. So very appreciative that this is being published in English. I think most of his stuff is published. I think it's only short stories that haven't. Hopefully a collection of his short works will be forthcoming, since I know he sells real well. But his work on Goodnight Pun Pun and Dead Demons, and Sakamoto Shinichi's work on The Climber and Innocent Rogue have been like really impacting me over the last however many years. But then this year with the channel, we started to dive more into manga, and it's just really opened up my mind. And so Ennio Asano's work, plus especially these two authors and these two projects that I've been exposed to. I'm sure there's a bunch of other stuff like this, but Blood on the Tracks by Shuzo Oshimi. This is number 5. I have 6 and 7 over there, but they got soaked when they got delivered, so I haven't read them yet. I'm waiting for the replacements from Amazon, and I got to return those other ones. So I've read up through number 5. And Ciguatera by Minoru Furuya. These two books kind of seem like they're, well, this is coming more from the Junji Ito horror thing, I think. And this is coming, I think, on the coattails of the success of Goodnight Pun Pun. But these two works especially, along with Ennio Asano stuff, but especially these two works, have really made me rethink pacing. It's like the opposite of the compression that Bastien Vives does in the Butchery, the emotional compression there that he can gut punch you real quick. These two books decompress everything and are so slow burn, but so focused on emotion and facial expression and like everything that I'm learning that Japan does well that we don't even know about in the Americas in terms of slow storytelling, but doing it well. I think these are going to have a real big impact, or at least they're causing a big crisis in the way I think about my own work. There's a couple stories that I want to tell coming up. I think I had an American mindset on them, and now I'm struggling. Like, oh crap, do I have to stretch them out? Like, because like, do they need to be that thing, or do they need to be the Butchery, or do they need to be somewhere in between? Like, what's the best length for the story? Before, I kind of had like a one pace mindset because that's all I knew. And so those two, beyond just being really, really enjoyable books, are so impactful to me because of that crisis in my own thinking about pacing. And I don't know how that's going to resolve. I mean, just quite literally, I don't think I have the time to pace something like a manga, but I'm really struggling with that. So I appreciate that. I appreciate anytime things make me re-question, relook at how I'm doing what I do. The thing that most took me off guard this year is Feelings, a story in seasons by Manjit Top. I did a review on this book, totally covered it there. Go check that out. But Tori grabbed this off a shelf when we were in New York. I would have totally overlooked it because, bias. I would have looked at it and said, Feelings, blah, chick shit. But as soon as she had it back in the hotel room and I flipped through it, wow, this is cool. And have just absolutely fallen in love with this book. The artist Gigi that I did a video on, she didn't have anything out this year. She's been producing some stuff on her Patreon, but Gigi and Manjit Top, probably the most direct impacts, along with the Guido Crepax, the way he uses rhythm in his story. But those three artists will probably have the biggest impact. And Ennio Osanyo and Sergio Toppi. I know that's a crazy combination of people, but those two women especially have really impacted what I want to do with my next story in terms of the look and the feel and the pacing of it. So this absolutely phenomenal book. I cannot recommend this enough. Like you've got, if you like comics and you like good art and you like pacing and how comics work, you've got to pick up Feelings by Manjit Top. And then my for sure easy pick, all the other ones I couldn't put them in order, but my easy number one pick of the year, and again, so blessed that the creator of this has become a friend, and he's someone that we've done an interview with now, and we got to dig into this book super in depth, is Unsmooth 2, Bum by E.S. Glynn, Everett Glynn. And this book is so smart. It's such a leap forward from his already good product Unsmooth, the first one. I cannot wait to see what Everett does with his next book, given the phenomenal leap between the first one and this one. I can't imagine what the next one's going to be. It's one of the most formally compelling. It's one of the most intellectually compelling. It's one of the most emotionally compelling books I've read in a while. It feels like one of the freshest entries into what comics can be that I've read in a while. Someone really pushing the medium forward. I really love the way Everett is thinking about comics page as like a site for collage, and all of the mediation and remediation that goes on in his work. Here's an example of these pages that are like collages. The panels are like ripped up photographs and they're kind of piled on top of the panels. It's a technique that we played with in Strange Death of Alex Raymond as well, that the page has dimension to it, that the panels stack on top of each other. Like you'll see that the things are stacked and they're casting shadows. So it was a technique that I was already thinking about because of the way Dave used it. And then to see someone else using it and someone else using it for a totally different purpose and such a smart purpose, like just really impacted me. Here's another good page where you get a lot of collage and remediation. Emotionally, I think a very deep story, and then talking about that idea of identity that I'm philosophically grappling with. I think this is again spot on with that discussion, especially like a postmodern look at identity, where identity is this just kind of ongoing remediation of everything around you. I think that's what the book's about. I think that's how he made it speaks to that. So it's so smart. It's so good. It's so enjoyable. It's just the absolute height of comics. And not only is it the absolute height of comics, it feels to me like the height of what comics are and can be and should be in 2021. Not thinking about COVID or any of that. I know that has to have an impact on the world, but I really haven't seen much that's dealing with that. And I think there's a lot of other things that are going on and have been going on in the last 10 years in terms of philosophy, and I think Everett is dealing with that stuff in Bum. And so to me, this feels like the future of comics, and that's why it's an easy number one for me. Is I can't wait to see more of what Everett does. I think we'll be looking back in 10 years and thinking that Everett Glenn's Unsmooth series was, one of the things that pushed the medium forward. I hope so. And I'm honored to have read it. I'm honored to have, read it right out the gate. I'm even more honored that we've been able to have such a long chat with Everett, and that I think he's becoming a friend, and I hope we'll chat with him more. It's really exciting. It's exciting. So please go get that book. Check out all the other books. I really want to hear what your top books of the year are. I really started being able to buy new books as they're coming out, like halfway through the year, so I don't even know all of what I missed. I think Barry Windsor Smith's Monsters this summer was one of the first ones I got as it was coming out. Can't put that on my list. Sorry. I know it's going to be on a lot of people's lists, but I just found it too miserable of a read. It's an amazing book, but it was a miserable read. Made me miserable reading it. But that's when I started like keeping up with the new stuff that's coming out. That looks good. I'm going to get it. That looks good. I'm going to get it. So I'd love to hear what you guys thought. What books are we missing out on? And I'd love to hear, what books do you think we should be looking at in the coming year? Books that you're looking forward to coming out that you want us to get on right away, and books that have come out this last year that you think we missed. I'd love to hear it all. All right. Thanks. Here's to a great 2022.
You want to see all these books? Smash that subscribe button and the like button and the bell, and then you get them.